When you consider it carefully, you will find out that it is a mystery that the blood of an animal could atone for the sin of man. What is there in likeness between a human being and an animal? This can be traced back in the Garden of Eden. When God formed man, he did not give him an animal as food for him. He gave him green plants as food for him, meaning fruits and all the green plants. And also the green plants were given to animals as food. So both man and animal were given green plants as food. When then did man begin feasting on animals? And why? The reason is in Genesis chapter 6 and verse 3. After man sinned, he became beast-like. God had formed man in his image and in his likeness. But when he sinned, he took on himself the beastly natures. It is because he bowed before a beast. Satan initially was a beast, as a snake. He was a beast. A snake itself was a creature that God had created. So Satan as a spirit entered inside the snake and caused the snake to become a devil. So when the man bowed or accepted the advice and obeyed the snake instead of God, the beastly natures were formed inside man. So man became beastly instead of godly. He became beastly. God decided to wipe man out of the earth together with the animals. Beasts are animals. So since man had become like the animal, God decided to wipe him away through flood together with the animals, because they are in likelihood they have become the same nature. When God was wiping human beings by flood, he was not wiping human beings, he was wiping animals, because all of them had become animals. So Adam took on himself an animal's nature instead of God's nature. Through walking with God and through obeying God, he would have acquired the likeness of God upon himself, because God had made him in his image, but he was to grow into the likeness of God by obeying him, by knowing good and evil, and choosing good instead of evil. It is through obedience to God he would have grown to know evil and good. God himself knows good and evil, but he has chosen good. The devil knows good and evil, but he chose evil. That is the difference between God and the devil. So man was independent. He was in a sifting. He was in an examination. He was on a watch list to choose good the way God has chosen good, but he chose evil. When Satan tempted him in the garden, telling him, "You shall be like God, knowing good and evil," the devil meant that the man would experience good and evil. The deception is that the deception that the devil cooked was turning the truth into lie. So he told Eve, "You shall be like God, knowing good and evil." But that was a deception. Deception is a truth turned into lie. When you read Genesis 3:22, God says, "Because the man has become like us." When you read Genesis chapter 3 and verse 7, the devil says, "You shall be like God, knowing good and evil." So there was a deception that the devil played into the court, into the hands, into the mind of the man. That trick caused Adam and Eve to bow before the devil, who was a beast. Now, beastly natures were formed inside them, inside a human being. Beastly natures. That is why, that is the main reason that believers today are known to be sheep, while Jesus is the shepherd. So we are sheep of his pasture. We believers are sheep of his pasture. So the sacrifice of animals turned into atoning for man, because a human being and an animal had become like each other. The man had become like animal, and so the blood of the animal could be used to atone for the sin of man. Good enough is that man did not acquire the nature of the beasts in the forest. He acquired the nature of the beasts that were livestock. He acquired a livestock nature. And the main ones are the goats, the sheep, and the bull, the cows, the bulls, which are classified as clean animals. So man acquired the nature of a goat, the nature of a sheep, the nature of a bull, as we see through the scriptures. And these three are mainly used to be offered, were mainly used in the rituals of Moses, because today they are no longer used. Jesus has become the ultimate sacrifice. So in those days of Moses, in the rituals of sacrifices, those are the main animals that were used to atone for the sin of man. The other ones are birds, clean birds, and the major one was the dove, a pigeon, which was offered by the most poor person in the community. God allowed them to bring the doves. There is a goat nature within a human being. There is a sheep nature within the human being. there is a bull nature within a human being. We know a human being is formed in three phases. There is the body, which is the flesh. There is the soul, which is the blood. There is the spirit, which is the breath. So the three animals, the body goes for the goat, which is very arrogant and is a carrier of sins, the body. The bull goes for the blood, which is life. The blood in a human being is the life of the human being. So the bull goes for the goat. Then the sheep goes for the spirit. The sheep goes for the spirit, which is breathe. You see, when Jesus says you must be born again, this is what he means. You must be born of the Spirit. Meaning, you are a goat because of sin. You are a goat because of sin. Sin took over the whole nature of man. He became sinful. So you are a goat. When you are in the flesh, you must be born of the Spirit, meaning you must be born into a sheep. I believe you understand that the goat is the body, and those who walk after the flesh are goats. When you are born again, born of the Spirit and water, you become a sheep. So to be born again is to be born from the flesh into the Spirit, is to be born into the Spirit, is to be born into the Spirit. Instead of being flesh, being born of the flesh, you are now born of the Spirit. That is the process of being born again. Jesus had to take upon himself the human nature in all the three phases. That is, Jesus took upon himself the body, that is the goat. He took upon himself the bull, that is the blood. And he took upon himself the sheep nature that was within man, that is a lamb, for him to pay the ultimate sacrifice that could cleanse man once and for all. The rituals of sacrifices could not sanctify man. So Jesus had to take them upon himself so that he can pay the ultimate sacrifice to sanctify man for good. You see that? All these are scriptures that we go through. All this is the message from the Bible. You have to believe it, you have to follow it, you have to understand it, so that you can know the great price Jesus paid for us. Initially, the animals' blood could not sanctify men. That is why they were to be offered every year. But Jesus, when he came, he did it once and for all.